The Ice Age, circa 2340 BC to 1640 BC. The flood's after effects, such as warm oceans due to extensive volcanism and cool air temperatures due to extensive aerosols in the upper atmosphere, created the necessary rare conditions for the Ice Age to occur. Powerful and continuous precipitation over land or severe snowstorms thus characterized the Ice Age, a period of several hundred years that began within a short time following the global flood. Global temperatures cooled and glaciers covered 1/3 of the Earth's surface, and we'll see a picture on the next slide of this, including most of Canada. I encourage you to check out the great works by Michael J. Ord, such as Ice Age, Frozen Record, and Frozen in Time, to learn more about that. The total length of the post-flood Ice Age was about 700 years, or from about 2340 BC, after the global flood, to about 1640 BC. Job. We read about Job in Scripture, after whom is named the book of the Bible, Job, in which he features. The book of Job Job himself appears to have lived after Babel, but before or about the time of Abraham. So in this period of just the 700 period, within that 700-year period of the Ice Age, in the midst of the Ice Age. So the book of Job evidently contains several references to the Ice Age, describing snow and frozen water bodies, which is significant given where Job lived. So if you check out Job chapter 37 and 38, you'll see several references to snow and frozen bodies of water. Job is described as living in the vicinity of southern Canaan, which would later become Israel, and Job's land is called the land of Uz in Job 1 verse 1. And these references to snow and frozen bodies of water would otherwise be hard to explain for a man living in that region if it were not in this period of much cooler global temperatures during the Ice Age. So this would indicate that Job lived during the Ice Age. There are various references also in the book of Job to creatures that lived after the flood in the region of Canaan and elsewhere on earth that have since become extinct. They didn't last many centuries after coming off the Ark of Noah. And that also evidences Job's early composition. Creatures such as the elasmotherium or unicorn, a very different sort of unicorn than the one that you encounter in fairy tales, as well as the behemoth, which are evidently great sauropod dinosaurs. These are creatures that Job describes as, described in the book of Job as creatures he is familiar with firsthand, that he's seen and interacted with these creatures that are now extinct. So another evidence of Job's early writing after the flood during the Ice Age. So here's a depiction of the extent of glaciation of the Earth's surface during the Ice Age after the global flood during the lifetime of Job. The glaciers do not come anywhere near to the Middle East, as you can see, but the extent of the glaciers indicates that the generally cooler temperatures across the globe and the longer, more severe winters with which Job is familiar during the Ice Age, having frozen bodies of water in winter, so that even in that warmest equatorial part of the planet, that sort of winter was familiar to Job.